Welcome back to The Line. According to new revenue figures released Wednesday by the legislative and executive economists, when New Mexico lawmakers meet next year, they will have almost $1.2 billion extra dollars to work with as they craft the next annual budget. And this budget surplus is due to boom in the oil and gas industry, which puts money into the state's coffers through the royalties, leases, taxes, etc. Stephanie, you know, this is a big question. How should we spend this money? My first question is, how could we even talking about a surplus when we're in the hole in so many different areas?
That's so right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just getting back to par, let alone, some kind of surplus.
Yeah.
So that begs a question. How careful should we be about this alleged surplus? What's the best way to approach this?
I think, so we can answer that, but I do also think that one of the bigger questions is, one, how did we get here?
Right.
Two, how are we going to ensure that this bump is great now, and it's nice that we can have this conversation about how we're going to fill gaps from previous years of regressive tax policy. But it's also about how are we going to diversify our economy so we're not so reliant on such a volatile industry.
That is the bigger question, isn't it?
Right. So it's a conversation about, yes, with the school lawsuit against the Martinez administration, we have some work to do to sufficiently fund education. We have some work to do to fully fund in a very adequate and sustainable way all of our state's programs and looking at, more progressive tax policies and making corporations pay their fair share and looking at repealing capital gains and so forth. There are some policy options on that front. But in terms of the expenditure side of this budget, I just caution that we don't get too comfortable and we recognize that this is a one-time surplus, that this is not a sustainable solution for funding New Mexico's critical programs and services.
That's right. LFC's been pretty clear about this. Let's not have a whoop-de-doo here. You know what I mean? This thing has been going like this, and we are going to go like this potentially again in 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. We need to be careful. Do you agree with that as well?
I agree. I mean, the temptation, and it's more than a temptation, when lawmakers have hordes of agency folks and other interest groups pounding down their doors asking for money, the temptation is to grow government and have bloated budgets. And it's very hard, especially after some lean years, because everybody thinks that they're entitled to come up to where they were plus some. Right. And so that's a problem. I think the first thing
let me ask you, is salaries on the table for you? Should folks expect to have a raise? Is that something that would be palatable for you?
It's palatable. I think you have to look at what's going on in the private sector.
Okay.
But I think it should be looked at. Yeah. But I think we need to tuck some money away.
Gotcha.
And the first thing I would push for is to put some money into the permanent fund,
right.
Reserves, and then you look at big needs, infrastructure projects that need to be paid for, one-time expenses, and we have huge infrastructure needs. And you do some things that aren't recurring.
That's right. That's right. Michael, interesting point there. Would you agree this is a time to hold back a little bit and just see how it shakes out? Or do you see an opening? I'm going to go to where Stephanie started with education. Just take one thing and say, we can put some serious dough into education here if this is a priority. Let everything else just sort of wait. Is that reasonable for you as well?
I would agree with Stephanie and the comments that have been made to this point. I think that education, I think the other area we need to be looking at is healthcare. I would just be very cautious to overcommit, because I think there is a cycle involved in this, and it would not be very wise to raid the piggy bank, because I think the cycle, I think there's a good chance the cycle is going to continue, and we will end up in the same place with less resource. So we need to be very strategic in where we invest the resources that we do have, and there are needs.
Tom, what would your needs be if there was a chance for you to weigh in and say, okay, we can do a little here, do a little there?
Oh, I can't really decide. Roads. Let's spend it on, let's put 20% aside.
Right.
Restore state budgets.
Which is the recommendation,
right?
20%, right.
That's totally solid. I think at that point you focus on building the infrastructure, things that don't have the recurring taxes.
Right.
Or recurring service items and stuff. Things like building the roads, improving the roads out in the eastern part of the state, improving roads throughout the Northwest, all throughout the state.
Right.
Building the telecommunications infrastructure. I had to chuckle when Representative Fox Young mentioned, we have to gauge what's happening in the private sector. And I chuckled because I go, oh my gosh, the private sector is dying out there, So, it would be great to restore the raises, but you know what? That's really not our place to say.
Yeah.
I think we restore the budgets and we let the folks who are managing determine the best way to, facilitate those particular resources.
Patty Lundstrom, Patricia Lundstrom, is on the record already saying it's a possibility that maybe we should just leave things flat for certain agencies. We shouldn't, you know what I mean? As a way of initially looking at this, let's not assume everything's going to get everything right off the bat. Let's just assume it's flat. We're getting by. Things are, needs are being met. Is that reasonable to you, or is that something you would counter? Say everybody needs a little touch of something at this point.
If you have a budget surplus after a number of years of up and down, I think just remaining calm and keeping it flat for now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wisdom in that. Now there's a lot of folks who are crying. They go, no, we need this. Well, there are a lot of needs and wants, but you know what? We have to be fiscally responsible because this will happen again.
Let me put this on the table because it's just out there. Steph, I'll start with you. UNM sports. There's a lot of calls now that says,
I'm a Lobo team. You're going to do this.
I know you are. I know you are. I had to. You know what I mean? But there are legislators saying we have the money now to kind of take a second look at these things. Is that a viable possibility?
I think we need to take a second look at everything. I think we need to really, we were talking about this on the homelessness topic, and Representative Fox Young brought it up, like doing a thorough assessment of programs in general and really identifying what's working and doubling down on that and making those investments. So when we bring up education, how are we investing in education in a smart way? When we look at the revenue side of the budget and we look at gross receipts tax policy and we look at exemptions, deductions, and credits, are those actually providing the benefits that they say they're going to provide? So I do think we need to assess that. That was my very non-subtle way of avoiding the Lobo conversation, the UNM conversation.
Right.
But I do think it's an opportunity. Having additional funding, having a surplus does give us a little bit of room to make those assessments. But what we're talking about now is on the expenditure side. I'm
That's
really
right.
also interested in talking about the revenue side.
Thank you for saying that. I'll go to Michael on that. Justine made a comment earlier. We are ticking up a little bit here in Bernalillo County and statewide on revenues, on tax revenues. Things are happening. Business is happening a little bit. Again, is that something we can add to the mix and feel like, okay, maybe we do have a little more wiggle room here for some other things if some revenue's coming in? Does that change your feeling at all if the private side is kind of stepping to it a little bit as well?
I would still be somewhat cautious.
Yeah.
I think, we don't really have at least I don't think we have a sound sense of where things are going.
Right.
So I would err on the side of caution.
Right.
I'd like to take on UNM, and I'm
Please.
not a Lobo, so I think it's outrageous that these sports have been cut. I think UNM has the money. I think David Harris has it in the couch cushions in his office, and the legislature and the governor need to take them to task and right these wrongs. For the particular students who signed up and had a prospect of a 4-year career at UNM that's gone away for the future. These very successful programs in men's soccer all the way down the line. And I don't want that to get lost in the conversation just because there's money on the table now. UNM needs to prioritize just like everybody else, like all the other state agencies, and they can do it. They can make it work. But football is going to have to take a hit. People need to get real about that. And I hope the legislators don't let this issue die.
Okay.
And I think, and I just want to be clear
Please.
too, like following through with our commitments to the students is critical. So I don't want to at all in any way not have that conversation. I think that is extremely important. And I think that does also speak to the need to fully fund higher education and to look at options to generate more revenue and to diversify how our revenue is coming in the state and not just rely on such a volatile oil and gas industry to provide those necessary investments to invest in our students, because you're exactly right.
Tom, what do you make of the idea that we're going to take another look possibly at internet sales tax? You know what I mean? And just again, I'm on this idea. We've got new revenue coming in on the revenue side, but that could be a potential. Governor Martinez was not into it, but it's a new day. So, what do you think? There's a time to reap, there's a time to sow. You know what I mean? There's a time to get after it.
There is. The cure to New Mexico's financial woes and ails is not going to be found in an internet sales tax. It's going to be found in building up a sound economic development. And if taxes can help do that, which I don't think that they can, I'm not necessarily a big tax person. I think
been consistent
the best
over the
tax,
years, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the best tax increase is, helping the private sector to generate more more revenue. Like you mentioned earlier, we're seeing an uptick at the county level, at the city level. That's great. Do you want to stymie that a bit? Now, if there was a tax with the internet tax, you could make an argument along those lines because it's a service.
Right.
Because you don't have a lot of businesses, that are really doing a whole lot of, sales on the internet.
That's right.
So
That's right.
you can make it happen.
Good point there. When we come back to the line, we'll look at the New Mexico governor's race and all that's going on.